Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beat the Cult podcast, where we fight harmful cult-like religious in thinking and practices. My name is Nikki, and I am joined here today by brother GA. Hello,
How you doing? How you doing? Peace and love, everybody.
peace and love. Good to see you. He is not
Good to
Muslim.
see
Disclaimer. But
you.
no, thank you so much for joining me.
I
We
appreciate you having me.
connected
Thank you.
on, yeah, we connected on Twitter, and that is where people can find you. I'm assuming.
Yes, sir. You can find me on Twitter at underscore brother GA.
Awesome. Awesome. And we got to talking about your story. And you said that you were on your way to be a pastor. And then,
I
as
was on my
so
way.
few Black people have done, you realized the bullshit and became an atheist. Congrats
Yes,
on that,
that's.
by the way. That is
Well, thank you. I
awesome.
appreciate that.
So tell me about that. How did you get into the church and how were you on the path to becoming a pastor?
I was raised religious. I was raised in Tifton, Georgia. Actually, I was a
Mm.
military brat. My mother was in the army, so we moved around a lot. But
Oh,
my entire family is
mm.
from Tifton, Georgia, and so I
Okay.
would spend every Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, or whenever my mother had to leave on a military assignment, we'd be in Tifton, Georgia. So, and at least 4 months out of the year, we spent the entire time in Georgia with my family. So,
Okay.
very religious family, very much so indoctrinated into Christianity.
Yeah.
My uncle, he still is the pastor of the United Methodist Church in Statesboro, Georgia. And
Okay.
so, but I got into the church just, from my mother and my aunts and my family. My grandparents had 15 kids. And so,
Ooh,
and we all went to church. We all went to, we'd be in church at
everybody.
Friendship Baptist Church in Tifton, Georgia. It'd be like three pews full of us.
I was
The
gonna
grand,
say, how'd they
my
get that
grandmama and
there?
all my cousins, my uncle, auntie, we all packed in the three pews and everybody knew us.
Wow.
But when I was 7 years old, I walked down the aisle and got saved for the first time at Friendship Baptist Church in Tifton, Georgia.
Okay.
And from then on, it was just about every other Sunday. And then, so my mother, she didn't really make us go to church a lot, but, she was more of a first and third fair weather saint type person like that. But we always went on the
Okay.
first Sunday of the month so we could do communion. And
Of
usually on the
course.
third Sunday of the month, we were in church and then, you know, had the Bible shoved in my face. You need to read this, you need to read this, vacation Bible school. And
Of
so,
course.
just
Inevitable.
pretty much indoctrinated into Christianity from a very young age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then, okay, you were indoctrinated. You went to the Navy.
I went to
What?
the Navy. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, did you start questioning in the Navy, or were you on your way to being a pastor while in the
Oh,
Navy
I
as well?
was pretty much questioning after I joined the Navy. I never questioned it growing up. I
Ah.
believed in it. I just believed in it. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
because that's what I was told. This is what I was
Same.
taught. By the time I was 4 years old, I could recite the Lord's Prayer. I didn't know
Ooh.
what it meant. At the age of 4, I can't conceive of concept like that, but I could just spit it
Right.
out to you. Our Father who art in heaven. Hallelujah. I could just spit it on out, and I could tell you all the books of the Bible in order all 66 books in order. By the time I was 6, I knew the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus.
Wow.
How does a
I can
kid
relate
know
to
this
that.
stuff?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. That's how
Yeah.
I was raised too.
Mhm.
Christian
But I
school,
joined the
Christian
Navy in
school.
2009. I turned
Mhm.
21 in boot camp, actually. And so, I kind of went on my own path and did my own thing.
Mm.
But then in 2013, I met my wife. And
Oh.
yeah, we were on the ship together actually in the Navy. We were on deployment.
Oh.
And this is about the time I had really started getting back into church and everything. I had been going to church since I was in the Navy, but now I was like really getting into reading the Bible and studying the Bible for myself and hosting
Mm.
Bible studies with my friends and people that I knew
Oh.
and things of that nature. And so
Okay.
after deployment in 2013, when we got home, we joined a church. It's called New Testament Church in Portsmouth, Virginia.
Mm.
And there, I won't say the pastor's name, but I had told him that I was thinking about becoming a preacher. And around this time, I was around 24, 25. And so then I became what is known as a walking minister. That's pretty much a minister in training. And so for
Mm.
2 years, I was under instruction, did some minister training, minister classes, and everything like
Oh.
that. And Bible study classes and preaching classes, and I was under instruction for
Wow.
about 2 years. And then
So
in
you've been really
26,
studying and getting into it. Wow.
absolutely. And just because it was just so much that I believed in it so much, I wanted to know the history of it.
Yeah.
And so then at
Well,
that time, I
good.
went to college after I got out of the Navy. I got out of the Navy in 2017, and this was before I got ordained. No, I got ordained in 2016. Yes, I was an ordained
Oh,
minister by the time I got
so
out of the
you
Navy
were
in 2016.
ordained.
Yes,
Oh,
I was an ordained minister. I was ordained by a council of bishops in at New Testament Church in Portsmouth, Virginia. So I went through the entire, we had to be selected and monitored and trained and then selected by another council of bishops within the church. And so I was ordained in November of 2016 when I got fully
wow.
ordained as a minister. And so by this time I had been preaching, I preached a few times. I would travel with my job a lot after I got out of the Navy. So around 2017, my job, we would travel a lot. I'm a government contractor. And so we would
Mm.
travel different places. One of the places specifically, and this is where I preached my second sermon at, it was at a church in El Centro, California. I had a pastor friend up there by the name of Randy Baker. And Randy Baker and I were still pretty good friends. We talk every now and then, but he would have me come and preach at his church whenever I was in town in California. And I had another pastor friend down in Key West. I would go and preach at his church when we would travel there. So
Oh,
I've done a little
wow.
bit of preaching. And so around after I got ordained in 2017, I went to college. I enrolled at Grand Canyon University. I took my GI Bill from the Navy, and I got my bachelor's degree last year in biblical studies. Well, my degree is actually it's a Bachelor of Arts in Christian Studies with an emphasis in biblical studies. And so I
Wow.
received my bachelor's degree last year, just finished up. And
Well,
so I
congrats on getting
say,
your degree. That's awesome.
oh, well, thank you. I
Just getting your
appreciate
bachelor's.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is what put me on the fence. And this is one of the stories I always tell. And this was before I got ordained, but I was
Oh,
at, I was still a young minister and I was still a young minister in training. And one day we were supposed to have class. It was on a Saturday morning. We were supposed to have class at the church. And the youth pastor at the church at the time, um, his house caught on fire. And it was he, his wife, their two babies. They had two twin babies, and his nephew was in the house with them as well. The nephew was three. The
oh
babies weren't even one yet, twins.
no.
The house
Did
caught
the
on fire.
babies die?
All three of the babies ended up dying.
Oh shit.
The youth pastor and his wife, they made it out of the house okay, but all three of the
Wait,
babies ended up
they
dying.
didn't grab the babies?
I don't know how it happened, and I never questioned it, but the way it happened, pastor and his wife survived. The babies died. But that's not the kicker. Here's the kicker. About a
That's
week
not the
later,
kicker. Oh
about
shit.
a week later, the youth pastor's wife goes live on Facebook, and she's at the burnt down house. The house was burnt to the ground. So she's out there in the rubble going live on Facebook. Now, I don't know what Bibles are made out of, but they're pretty durable. I
Oh
don't know
no. Is
how
this what
Bibles are made so durable, but there was this Bible on the ground, and she says, "This is how you know God is still in control." The house burnt to the
this is a real
ground, and
story? Because this
this
is a
is a true
meme.
story. This actually
This
no,
is
this,
a
this
meme.
actually happened. It's a true
Oh my
story.
gosh.
So she shows the Bible on the ground on her phone, and so in my head, I'm thinking, why would God save this Bible but not save these three babies?
Well, you can't question God. He works in mysterious ways.
It works in mysterious ways, and so this happened in 2015. Yeah, this was in 2015. And so
So the
this was the kind of the first thing that sent me on the journey to exploring it. And I kind of just left it alone, but it was like these three babies just died in the house, and you out here worrying about a Bible. I mean, I don't know what Bibles are made out of. They're pretty durable, but so that's
um,
that's that's what kind of started this whole journey for me. And I
that
just
is
kind of
one
let it
hell of a
go.
story. That is wild
Yeah,
to
it
me.
is a
Was
true
she
story.
not mourning the babies?
I don't know. Never really asked her that. She and I weren't
That's
that
some
close, but the
insurance
youth pastor
fraud.
and his was. His name was Orlando. Pastor Orlando was his name, and yeah, he and I were pretty close, and we
That
still
doesn't make
are.
sense
But
to me.
but that's what kind of put me on the fence. But so fast forward a couple of years, I'm going through school, I'm doing my Bible study, and this is by this time I had read the Bible twice, cover to cover.
I have a question real
And
fast.
yes,
When you
ma'am.
say put you on the fence, what do you mean by
hmm
that?
I mean, this is when I actually started questioning the validity of the religion.
Ah, okay.
I was on the
Yeah.
fence about it. Like, is this actually real? Is this actually true? That's
Mm,
what I mean by on the fence. And so this
mm.
was in 2015. And this, like I said, this was before I even actually got ordained. I got ordained in November 16th.
Wow.
And so around 2019, well, in 2019, my wife and I, we moved to Pensacola, Florida. We were in Virginia for 10 years. That's where I was stationed at when I was in the Navy. I got out of
Yeah.
the Navy in 2017. So I did 8 years in the Navy. I was in from 2009 until
Oh
17.
wow.
And
Yeah.
I got out, started working my government contractor job. I work on airplanes.
Oh.
I'm an aircraft ground recruiter. So I work on the ground, helping get the planes
Oh,
off the ground, things like that. Yeah,
that's good
fighter
work.
jets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
really cool. You're like
yeah,
Top
so
Gun, but not Top Gun. Kind of like Top Gun.
I don't fly. I work on the ground.
Oh,
Nah.
he's like, I do not do all of that nonsense,
Nah, I
man.
don't get in the plane and fly. But my job title is actually called a plane captain. So when I tell people that I'm a plane captain, they say, "Oh, you fly?" I'm like, no, that's not what I do. I work on the ground. I'm a ground crewman.
I'll still take the title though. I
Right.
would still tell
So
people
we
that.
moved from Virginia Beach to Pensacola in 2019, and before that, I had had a lot of questions because at this point, I had read the Bible twice. I was
Mm,
going to Bible college for it, and all of this, and so I just actually started questioning if all the things in the Bible were actually true. I just wanted
mm,
to know, like, did a snake talk? Did a donkey talk? Did a man walk on water? Did dead human flesh get up and come back to life? So these questions that I was having, and so
mm.
at the end of the day, it just all came down to the fact that the things in the Bible just don't comport with reality.
No, they don't.
And so one night I was at work. I was working the overnight shift at work, and so I picked up my phone and I typed into Google. I said, "Does God appear to me?" Because it's some one of those things in the Bible I took very seriously. The Bible says that God spoke to Moses face to face as a man
Yeah,
speaks to his friend.
yeah.
And so, okay, but that don't happen in real life. And you have
No.
all these instances in the Bible where God is just appearing. He appears to this person, he talks to that person. He and Adam walked in the cool of the day together. So
Yeah.
I
He
was
and Jacob were
okay.
wrestling.
Right, me and Jacob wrestled, you know what I mean? And so, everybody in the tabernacle of meeting, Moses talked to him numerous times, face to
Mhm.
face. So I Googled, does God appear to people? And so I come across this video by Seth Andrews. It's called
Mm.
Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. And that was the first piece of atheistic material I had ever watched. And so from there, I was like, man, I've been a Christian for damn near 25 years. And this is the most sense I've ever heard anybody make on the
Mm.
subject. And it was coming from an atheist.
Yep.
And so from then, I just went on more explorations. And I'd say towards the end of 2020, right around the beginning of 2021, that's when I just had to come to the realize, gee, you're an atheist and you just don't believe in this stuff anymore.
My
And
God.
it was extremely difficult for me at first. It put me in a state of
Yeah.
depression for a while because one, I didn't have anybody to talk to about it because my whole family's Christian. I'm an ordained minister and everybody's so proud of me. My mom's so proud of me. She got my ordination certificate up in her house.
Oh
My son's a
wow.
preacher and all of this. So
Oh, your
it
son
was
is a
very
preacher.
well, me. She's talking about me. I'm
Oh,
saying my
her
mother
son is a
had,
preacher.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. My mother has her certificate on the house, and she brags to all her friends. My son's a preacher and all of this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it was very difficult at first to come out of to find my way out of the religion, and I was wondering if there was something wrong with me for a little bit. Like I've been
I can
raised to
imagine.
believe this stuff, and I just don't believe in it anymore. So
Yeah.
kind of felt like there might be something wrong with me. So,
So how
but
did you deal with that depression and how did you kind of come to terms with that? Because you stuck with it, like you didn't
I
go back to
did.
the church or
I just talked to my mom about it. Actually, I
really?
brought it to my mom. She was the first person I told about it, and I just kind of brought it to her. And believe it or not, it actually went really well. It went better than I expected. I was
Wow.
expecting to be ostracized, but at this point, it's something me and my mom don't even talk about. Our relationship is our relationship, and we still tight as can be. I
Right.
was raised by a
That's
single
good.
mother, and so it was just me, my mom, and my brother. That's all I had growing up. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it kind of disappointed my mom at first. I'm sure it did. And I could always tell, that, she'd say things, you weren't raised this way. I was like, but
Yep.
you
I heard
always
that.
raised me to question everything. That's what
Yeah.
that's what my mom
That's
did. My mom
true.
always told me, if you got questions, ask. If you don't believe
Yeah.
something, ask. And
Yeah.
so it seems like religion is just that one thing that is just
It is
off
that one
limits.
thing.
You
Yeah.
can't question religion. You know what I
Of
mean? So
course. That's how it is in
you're not
my
supposed to
family.
question that. We can question anything else. Did we really go to the moon?
Critical
You know what I'm
thinking.
saying? We can question stuff like that, but we just can't question religion. Is Santa
Yeah.
Claus real? You can't question that. You don't hear people
Right.
calling you a Santa Clauses or a tooth fairyist or a Easter bunnyist
A
or nothing like that,
unicorn.
but
Yeah.
a Bigfoot. You don't hear people calling you that, but it seems like religion is that one that's off limits. But
Right.
after a while and after a couple of conversations, I guess my mom just kind of came to the, you know what, he feels how he feels about it, and it is what it is, and we still cool. You know what I mean? And
Good.
I don't think she's told my family about it because none of them have asked me about being an atheist. But when they
Really?
first found out that I was becoming a preacher, everybody in the family knew about that.
Oh, of course. Well, that's
Everybody knew
big
I
in
was a
our
preacher. They wouldn't play rap music around me. And I'm like, man, if you don't cut that shit up, man,
That's
I'm
so
cool.
interesting. In our community, like being a
Mhm.
preacher is a rite of, well, it's not like a rite of passage, but it's like a
Right.
very honorable position in the community.
Right.
Like just
Mhm.
being a deacon, being a bishop, all of that. Um, so like how I have a question. Is your wife a Christian?
Oh, my wife is more indoctrinated than I
Does
am.
she know about your atheism?
She knows.
How does
Same
that work?
thing. We don't talk about it. We just don't go there.
Do you have
So
kids?
and we don't have kids yet. And that's something that I think we might have to deal with in the future when we have kids, because at this point, her and I don't talk about it. But I even think now she might be starting to question
Bring another person over to the
it.
yes,
She
bring another
hasn't
sister
said
over.
anything
We
about
need
it,
it.
but
Yes.
one of our favorite shows is South Park. We watch South Park like religiously.
Love
I
Park.
love South Park.
Yeah.
And when it comes to South Park, South Park makes fun of everything. They made fun
Everything.
of
No
every
boundaries.
religion. They made fun of gays and everything like that. It's that side of the thing where we can laugh at stuff and make fun of stuff without anybody getting their undies in a
Yeah.
twist. And
Like Family
so,
Guy. Just no
right,
limits.
exactly. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to South Park, we were both sitting around talking, and it was the episode, the Mormon episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the more
You remember the Mormon episode? And
yeah.
so
That one gets a lot of people actually.
she made the comment. It was her that made the comment. She said, "You know what? I learned from South Park is that when it comes to religious ideas, no idea is really more ridiculous than the other." She said that, and I was like, "You damn right. They all pretty ridiculous." And so that's when I was like, but and even still, like her family, they're really big in the church, and her mom is an ordained minister. She's a preacher as well. And I know
Wow.
her pastor really well, and her brother plays the keyboard, and they all sing in the choir. So they're
Wow.
pretty big in
They
church people too.
are.
And I still go to church with them. You know what I mean? Whenever we go home to visit my wife, we go to church on Sunday, and I don't have no problem with it. I'm cool with
Sure.
it. I'm just where I am with being an atheist, and like I said, it's a term that I embrace now. I used to have a problem with it, but now I embrace it. You know what I mean? Because like I was saying, you don't hear people calling you an A Santa Claus or an A Bigfootist or nothing like that. So why I got to be an
Exactly.
atheist? But you know what? That's cool. I'm with it. You call me an atheist, and I love it.
I just appreciate, and I've said this before, and I think I said on Twitter, I just appreciate you being a Black atheist
Oh
because
wow.
it is so rare. And it is, I like I told you when I was on Truth Wanted, I said that religion is like a genetic disease in the Black community.
Yeah.
And I believe that, not like technically like a disease, but like
Hmm.
for some reason, religion is so imbued in our culture and our sense of
Yeah.
identity. And just, I'm sure there are others who question, but it's not even just having the guts to question, but having the guts to follow through. And especially as
Hmm.
a preacher, actually saying no to the
Yeah.
bullshit. And like,
Yeah.
this is not real. And I do
Yeah.
not have to continue to pretend to believe it or participate in it.
Exactly. You know what? And for me, it was just because at some point I'm supposed to get a response, am I not? I had a
Yes.
routine. I had a routine every morning for 4.5 years. I got up at 6 a.m. I did my morning prayer before I went to work. I did my Bible study, listened to my gospel music, and I would talk to God. Okay.
Yeah.
One day he gonna talk back, because one thing I used to hear a lot of preachers saying, I used to say it a lot myself, and the Lord told me to tell you. Like, hold up, God talked to you? You
My
know what I mean?
mother
Like
says that.
literally God talked to you? Right. And
Yeah.
so I
That's what
and
they
so
say.
for a long time I believed that. Like, okay, God talked to me. He will talk to me one day. I just gotta keep the
Don't be in
faith
heart.
and keep studying and keep praying and keep trying to be in tune. And I used to think there was something wrong with me. Like, okay, I'm not doing something right because God's not responding. But I just come to realize in real life, the invisible man in the sky with the magic powers, he just don't interact with reality. He just
It
doesn't.
doesn't.
And
But it's so
and
weird that we're able to accept that, but so many people
mhm,
aren't, and they will finagle and bend and misconstrue their own
mhm,
thoughts and blame them on a supernatural deity that's actually trying to talk to them. It's very weird to me. I don't understand it for
mhm.
one.
And you know what? It took me a long time to realize that. And now that it's like God is like Santa Claus for grown-ups. You know, you
It
know what I
really
mean?
is.
Like that's
It's
how
like
I
a
do it. It's
vending
like,
machine.
if you're bad, you're gonna get a piece of coal in your stocking, and you ain't gonna get nothing for Christmas. And that's the same thing with it. If you bad, God just gonna punish you. You don't spend an eternity in hell. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Or something bad
and
will happen to you because you didn't do something God wanted. Like,
right.
my friend I was telling you about, she's
Mm-hmm.
from Jackson. Well, no, I'm sorry, she's not from Jacksonville. Her ex is from Jacksonville, and she used to live
Mm-hmm.
with their family. And her ex's brother has really bad seizures, and his mother told him it was because he was a bad kid, and God was punishing him while giving him life threatening. Like these are bad seizures, like very bad
Oh wow.
seizures. And she said, "Well, that's
Mm.
because you're a bad kid and God's punishing you for that." Like, it's like, do people even think about what they're saying? Like, this is the type of God you
Oh.
worship?
So let me add on to that story because I forgot this part because I forgot this part. But I told you about the youth pastor and his baby's dying in the fire. So about like
Yes. Oh my
so
God,
about
that's
like
so
2 months
wild.
later, the
Wow.
pastor called him to the front of the church and was praying for him about his baby's dying. And the pastor actually said these words to him: "God did this to you. Test your faith."
What?
Serious. Yeah, he said that
Why? Why is
about this
God
man's
wiping out
baby's dying.
more
Like, this is how
babies?
you test somebody's faith. Like, if there is a God and this is how you test my faith, you keep that shit, bro.
But that's justifiable because he's God and you don't know his ways. His ways are higher than yours, and he's good all the
Hmm.
time, and all the time he is good. There's no critical thought
Right.
applied. And I think for us,
None.
especially because there's just like this sense of desperation because we struggle so much generally, like
Hmm.
socioeconomically, that we
Right.
just like bad things that happen to us. I think it's like a self-deprecating mentality, like learned helplessness almost, that, well, we're not
Right.
good enough to even really have things in society. We're not really good enough to be treated with dignity. So of course God himself, or well, himself is not going to treat us the same way. And everything we go
Right.
through is just a test to make us stronger because we don't
Mm,
deserve good things. Or I mean, I don't
mm,
I feel like, I mean, not that people in the white community or other communities don't have like the same concepts about God testing your faith, but I feel with us, like the struggle and the focus on the hard aspects of life is what's highlighted more in what we're taught. But that's
mm.
horrible. That is
It is
horrible.
terrible. It is terrible. And I've seen being in the church community for as long as I had, and then actually being a preacher and dealing with the upper echelon of black preachers in the black
Oh yeah,
community. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I've
same.
dealt with a lot of these guys and done training under a lot of these guys. And it's like,
Yeah,
how did we get here? Is the question. How did we get to where we are? Because there are a bunch of money grubbing freaks.
it's a
Like I
money
knew this
grab.
guy, I knew this guy, God, I can't remember his name, but I used to call him the trusting God seed man. So the church that I was a part of, New Testament Church, we were under the Global United Fellowship,
Mhm.
under a guy named Bishop Neil Ellis from Nassau, Bahamas. He was the leader of the fellowship, and it was about 120 different churches from the across the USA that were all just into one
Wow.
fellowship. And so every year, it started in 2015. We would do something called the Gathering, and that's our conference. And every year we would get together and do like a 5 day conference. And when I first did my first biblical class under Bishop Eddie Long at the conference, it was in Baltimore, Maryland. And that's when I
Bishop
met
Eddie
this
Long.
guy. Yeah.
Wow.
That's when I met this guy. I can't remember his name, but we called him Trusting God Seed Man
Trusting
because
God's seed.
Trusting God Seed Man, because every time he would get up and take up a seed, like an offering, he would give the same speech. And he would always start off like this: how many of you trust God? I heard him give the speech for the first time in Baltimore. And then he came to our church and preached in Virginia, and he did the same speech. how many of you trust God? If you trust God, get that seed in your hand. And I'm like, hold up, did this dude
Give
get
me
his
that
speech in
money.
Baltimore? And
Yep.
then we went to his church in Manassas, Virginia, and he gets his speech again. And I'm like, this dude unrehearsed this shit. Like he got to sit down. And by the third time I heard him give this speech, I was like, bro, I can get up here and give this speech and get this seed. If you
The
trust
seed.
God, come give your seed. So
Get
we
the
call him trusting
seed.
God seed man. Like,
And that's what, unfortunately, that is what the church, especially in the Black community,
mhm,
the prosperity preaching, that's really lucrative because the lack of money.
mhm,
People play on that. Like you have a lot of poverty, and just like
yeah,
the widow in the Bible, she gave her last,
right.
trusting God that He would provide for her. That's the
Mhm.
message that's given, and it
He'll
works.
receive it tenfold, or you'll get it back tenfold,
Oh
all of
yeah, you'll
that.
get it back tenfold. And it's like,
Hmm.
but that hasn't worked thus far. We actually have less wealth now than we've ever had. Um,
Exactly. Mm.
which is very sad, but the church still continues to exploit that desperation
Oh yeah.
ineffectively.
Man, I used
I
to hear
was yeah,
what's his name? I heard a pastor one time. When he was talking about tithes and offering, he was like, how you supposed to give 10% of your 10% of your earnings to God, like off top,
yeah.
and that's not even biblical. But you won't even get into that. But they'll swear to you that Malachi 3:10 says that you're supposed to give 10% of every dollar you earn to whatever church organization you belong to.
I
That's
can totally
not
see
even true. Yeah,
that.
but he would say you pay your tithes first, even if you don't got enough money to pay your rent. You still should pay your like, whoa, huh?
Whoa.
He's like, well, you ain't got enough money to pay your rent anyway, so you might as well go ahead and give it to God.
What?
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 Yeah,
I'm not going to live at the church? No, you won't let me
no,
live there. So where am I? Am I going to live with you? No.
no. Who's
Like,
gonna pay my rent when
who's
it's
going to
time
pay
to
my
pay
rent?
this
Well,
rent come
God's going to
around?
pay your rent. Because if you feed
Exactly.
into yeah, like that's so stupid. Like I just, it's wild. Like the community, this
Mhm.
desperation dependence on God,
Yeah.
it's really wild to me. And I respect so much your ability to see I'll just keep saying, see the bullshit and get out of
Yes.
it.
It,
It's
you know,
crazy.
it's for a long time. I didn't really call it bullshit. I called it people teaching you what they thought was right because
Of
they
course.
heard it somewhere else. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like how racism is taught in the home.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Religion is embedded into your brain in the home, and from your
Repeatedly.
parents and from the people around you, from your community. It's just a
Yeah.
product of environment. If I was born over in the Middle East, I'd probably be Islamic. You
You
know
would
what I
be
mean?
Islamic.
And,
Yeah, easily.
exactly. So it's just
And I would
yeah.
be dead
But seeing
because
through the
I would have,
bullshit, it's just all a bunch of bullshit. It's just
it
some
really
book,
is.
and
So
that
how do
we
you
adhere to.
so Daniel on Objectively Dan on Truth 101 on this past week, he asked me an
Mhm.
interesting question. And he asked pretty much how could atheism, I guess, take off in the Black community? Like what would need to happen? And
Mhm.
I said pretty much that celebrities would need to endorse it. Like like they wouldn't do that because even the most like the biggest celebrities, like even like Beyonce, Nicki, they're all religious. But I
All
said
of
they are,
them.
and I
Mhm.
like even the ones. Of course, it's a front, but
Yeah,
I was like, basically, celebrities would need to endorse it because we are more influenced by entertainment than any other demographic statistically.
exactly.
And he was shocked by that, but I'm like, no,
Mhm.
this is actually true.
I
But
mean, it is like if Beyonce came out and said she ain't believe in God, how many of them beehive gonna follow her? That beehive will be
exactly
right on that ass. Hey,
right.
Beyonce said God ain't real, so I mean,
I guess God ain't real then because if
you know what I
Queen Bee
mean? But
says it,
it's that is definitely true because
yeah, it
it's
is.
we get a lot of influence from pop culture,
Entertainment,
celebrity culture, and everything.
athletes and
So
singers and rappers.
exactly. Mm.
So what would you say? Like, how could like atheism? Well, is it possible? I would just start with that. Is it possible for atheism
Is
to
it possible?
take off in the Black community?
I
And what
think
would need
so.
to happen? Really? Oh,
I think it is, and like you said, it might start with some celebrities, or it might just take a community of people to get together and try to make it more mainstream because atheism in a lot of
Isn't.
communities, especially the Black community, it's just not mainstream. So,
Well, it's seen as demonic and it's really taboo
oh
and
yeah,
stigmatized, especially in the Black community. And I think that would be the problem we would have to get past, is because we have higher rates of superstition in
yeah,
our community than others,
yeah.
much higher rates. And that, I believe, I was thinking that it was kind of a lack of scientific and philosophical literacy in our community. Not that Black people aren't intelligent, but like the access to the level of educational resources that whites and other demographics have, we don't really
Mm,
have that. And that's really
no.
pivotal, and encouraging people to question the world and ask questions about how things work, and not answer those questions with superstitional religion.
Well,
So,
see, that's why I think Black people need to build their own schools within the
do you
Black community. Yes, we need to build our own schools, our own educational institutions, because
interesting?
you know what? I make
That
$95,000 a
that
year,
scares
and
the
I
hell out of
ain't
me.
used algebra in years. So,
You're right. Same. I don't use
but
algebra. I was
we
actually looking at
don't.
my transcript. I was like, I took algebra. I use
Right.
it.
And so I think that with our demographic, it would be one, our own schools and teaching ourselves life skills. Because I think the problem with a lot of us is we teach our children how to think instead of, I mean, we teach them what to think
What to
instead of
think?
how to think. You know what I mean? And so if we would
Indeed.
teach our people how to think, like for me, I don't have kids, but if I do, I don't plan on teaching my children about religion. If there's a God in heaven and he wants my child to know who he is, then he can come tell my child himself. Other than
Exactly.
that, I want to teach my child how to survive in the world. I want to teach my child how to change a tire on his car if he get a flat tire. I want to teach my
Right.
child how to do his own taxes. I want to teach
Yeah.
my child to go to school and get a good education and find yourself a job out here in the world, because that's what's going to get you
Or
by in
run
the
your
world.
own, like run your
You know what
own
I'm saying?
business and produce,
Exactly.
because
Run your own
we're
business. How
not,
to start your own business. You know what I mean?
and maintain
And
it and stay successful with it.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
we were talking about Dr. Umar earlier, and I know you don't agree with a lot
Yeah.
the man says, but he made the point up until 1977, I believe it was, or somewhere in the mid 70s, in the city of New York, you could graduate with a degree, or from high school, you could graduate certified as a plumber, certified as a carpenter, certified as a brick mason, certified as a factory
Mm.
worker, certified as a welder. You could get these certifications coming straight out of high school. These were
Mhm.
the skills that pay the bills with your hands. Now they
Especially
don't
for
do
men.
that. Now they want
Yeah.
you to graduate from high school and go to college and get yourself a trade to do these things.
Yeah.
But they teaching you all this nonsense in school, like trigonometry. I call it nonsense. I just honestly do. They want you to
Unless you're
learn
majoring
trigonometry and
in
honors
something
chemistry.
relevant to that. Yeah,
You
like
know what I
it's like,
mean?
I mean, I understand like the one basic, like I had to take a basic math class. I had to take general math or
Right.
algebra. I chose algebra. That was the one math class I had to take. I understand
Hmm.
that, but encouraging people to take a lot of unrelated courses, but also too, higher levels of education aren't always accessible in the Black
Hmm.
community. And, but I do know, I was telling you about the book we're reading, Is Marriage for White People,
Yeah.
that Black women are going to college at higher rates than Black men.
Hmm.
And that has a lot to do as well, like we were talking about with the issues with like Black, like male leadership, how Black men are a little less, I guess, how do I say that? Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying this. Did you see Wakanda?
The new Black Panther movie? Well,
Yeah.
Wakanda Forever? I haven't seen it.
Okay, you don't have to see it, but we were talking about Dr. Boyce Watkins, and
Hmm.
he was talking about kind of this, like we were saying, talking about the lessening or the decreasing role of Black men in the home and the community. And he was saying that Wakanda reflected this trend because there were very few Black men. There really were like none at all. And
Hmm.
even the antagonist, he's actually Latino. In the previews, I could not tell what he was. I did not
Right.
know. But he's Latino, and but the movie really is about Black women protecting their own and
Hmm.
what's like their resources. And I thought that was interesting, but I guess what I was saying is, with our community, there's kind of an issue with us staying together, and it goes
Yeah.
down to the family level. Like 70% of
Hmm.
Black kids are born to single moms, and it's who aren't married to their fathers, and that's not helpful to providing that stability necessary to even start our own schools or start our own banks and things like that.
I definitely think black men need their fathers. I grew up without mine.
Daughters,
you know what I'm saying?
black kids need their
Black
fathers.
kids, period. Yeah, black kids, period. But I guess what I mean is,
no, black men need their
young
fathers.
black male needs a strong male role model in his life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a father, but you know, my mother had 5 brothers, so I had my uncles and I had my older brother. You know what I mean? So I had a strong male presence in my life most of the time, and so excuse me. So I just think that it's a demasculization of the black male figure in the black home. It has been a process of that since the late 70s, when the prison systems came into and they were sending money from the prison systems, and so you started seeing a more influx, because black families were together in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the sharecroppers and the waiter carriers and the factory workers. Our grandparents worked in factories for 40 years and lived better lives than we're living now. You know what I'm saying?
Teaching, and my great granddaddy worked on the railroad, and my great grandmama, she had 13 kids.
My grandfather was a truck driver and he raised 15 children. You know what I mean? You know,
they were.
And so, so when the prison system, started they came in and had the prison system, and they sent the crack in. The crack came from over the 80s, and then the crack epidemic, and you started seeing a lot more brothers going to jail at this time. And so single black mothers were left at home because most of the fathers, most of the uncles, most of the brothers were in prison at this time. And
we had to assume those masculine roles of protection and provision.
Exactly. And so,
role. And I say that inevitably because I have to specify, because people today will be like, well, women can be strong. That's not the point. Traditionally, Homo sapiens are tournament species, and females, there's a reason that, just as a side note, there's a reason that females and males in the human species are more dimorphic, which means that our sexual differences are more pronounced. Is because there's a reason men are taller and bigger, and that women are smaller and shorter, is because that's what our great grandparents and our ancestors selected for, because that's what was more conducive to survival in our environment. So we needed bigger, stronger men to protect us from the environment, and men needed women that were easier to get up and run, pick up, let's go, there's a threat. So when you select
evolution by natural selection.
It was sexual selection. This is what was sexually selected for. There's a reason for that. So when I talk about men and their roles, and I have to specify heterosexual relationships, because of course things are different. And with me being a lesbian, I have to be a little bit more progressive in my ideals too, because I take a lot of that, because I grew up in a home with a very traditional male female roles. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a football player who was a 6-figure earning male, and very traditional. So these are the roles we were raised with, but these are also functional roles in the community as well. Yes, women work now, but women exert more caloric expenditure when it comes to caring for offspring as humans. Men, they spasm on top of you for 3 minutes if you're lucky. If you're lucky, you get 3 minutes, and hopefully a little bit after. But that's what men do, and the women carry and raise and nurse, and really the child's not ready to really be left alone until around, not left alone, but 5. So men have really pivotal roles in keeping, while the woman is nursing and doing what she's supposed to be doing, that takes a lot of effort. And it helps to have someone, preferably the father of the baby, who is invested, because there's higher rates of abuse between step parents and step kids, because that's not your baby. And even in species like lions and gorillas, they'll just straight up murk the baby and give them the mom, their own child, because they're not going to put in effort to raise another man's baby. So another man, another male, a competing male.
I guess. I wouldn't even think that I would see that in other species other than humans, but
tournaments. There's a reason, lions, the big dark manes. That's not just because they were born that way, but that's because that's what female lions like. And the big antlers, female deer like that, that's who
the silverback gorilla.
The silver, but they like
the
that.
Silverback gorilla,
And
Because
female,
all male gorillas don't have that silverback. But that's usually something that comes with that with the leader of the pack. You know, it's
that
something that
leader, the
naturally
alpha,
happens to them.
alpha.
The
Yeah,
alpha,
the
exactly.
leader.
Mm.
And I mean, like alpha is not technically like a biological term, but it's, the
Right.
leader, like you said. But in
Hmm.
our community, um, our yeah, we're like have higher rates of divorce. Divorce is like financially detrimental. It doesn't matter who you are. And with less
Right.
wealth, it's really detrimental. And it's just in order to start schools and all of these things, we first need our men in the home. We do.
Yeah.
It's hard
So
to,
do you
and
think that a woman can actually properly teach a man how to be a man?
no, I don't.
You know,
Because she's
I
not a
know a lot of women
man.
that disagree with that. You know what I mean? I know a lot of women disagree with that, but I agree too. I
I would
agree
probably
that.
get canceled for saying that, but that's not because I just don't. That's honestly why, and this is an issue. For some reason, the women I date all have sons.
Hmm.
But if I had my choice, I would not, because like I don't think I can't teach a man how to be a man. I could teach him how to be um an aggressive person, but I don't know what
Hmm.
it's like to be a man, or like I don't have
Hmm.
male issues because I'm not. So I would
Yeah.
prefer not that, but I mean with single mom, especially in our community, that's kind of what's happening. And it's kind
Hmm.
of a similar, like you were like the demasculization and the feminization of the black man is
Hmm.
kind of a side effect of the increased incarceration of black men,
Hmm.
because women teach men to be men based on what women know and what women want, which is a softer, more protective, or an easier
Uh,
male to. It's harder to it's harder to regulate male behavior as a woman. So,
gotcha.
like you to keep a male calmer, especially black
Hmm.
men in the world where they have higher risk of being hurt or shot if they act a certain way. Of course,
Hmm.
you want your son to be calmer and more respectful,
Right.
and that goes all the way back to buck breaking and slavery as well, where they would take the bigger, strongest male, kill him, and then take the second
Hmm.
strongest and then rape him and break him, and then the moms are like, "No, sweetie, don't act like that. I don't want you to get hurt." So it's a similar concept now. And it's like bonobos who are matriarchal. The men are much more passive in those
Hmm.
environment, like in that species, because it's matriarchal, and there's not
Right.
a lot of room for the beating your chest and everything. Not that that's what a lot of men do, but I think there should be a little bit of that. I mean, it takes leadership and it's hard to compete, to bring resources home. So it does take a little bit of attitude, a little bit of swag to do that.
And I was
Um,
gonna say that along with that point, so I don't think a woman can teach a man how to be a man. I don't think,
I
like
don't think a
me,
man can teach a woman
I
how to
can't
be
teach a woman how to be a woman
yeah,
because
I
I
don't
don't know
think
what that's like, and
it
I
goes
can't
both
teach her.
ways.
You,
Yeah,
you know,
it
yeah,
goes
exactly. It definitely goes both ways. You know what I mean? So but
yeah,
my mom didn't have any daughters. She had two sons, and
yeah,
so when it came to a lot of the manly things, she would call my uncles. Hey, I need you to come talk to your nephew. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And it would be my uncles coming up there getting me right. I had my uncles put their foot in my ass a whole bunch of times on just some levels that my mom just couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? Hey,
yeah, right,
come get your nephew, please. You know?
right.
And
Come
so
get him. And it's but this day and time you cannot say that. And but it's
yeah.
but like you really can't, like you'll get canceled and oh,
Mm,
women can do the same thing. Honestly, no, we can't. And it's not
mm,
that we don't try, but like we were
mm,
talking about how black women are seen as more masculine than other women. Well,
yes.
we kind of have to, like with the
Mm-hmm,
taking of the black man out of the home, like
mm-hmm,
we have to kind of fulfill both of those roles. So we do have to kind of be that protector and be more aggressive than
mm-hmm.
a lot of other women who statistically are more likely, statistically, not Nicole saying this, more likely
Right,
to have their men in the homes because
right.
there aren't as high rates of incarceration. And like it's very interesting. I was when I was reading the book "Is Marriage for White People." I left the book at home, and my brother and I we went to an Airbnb for Christmas, and he goes to bed at a normal time, so I was stuck with nothing to read. So I was looking for an online copy of the book, and some other books popped up, like Amazon suggested, and one was "How to Be a Black Woman Who Finds a White Man," and I was like, "That's an interesting book." And they were like, how, and it said white women and Asian women get white men all the time. Why is it so difficult for us? And they were talking about femininity and how to be, if you express yourself as more feminine and more meek and demure, you're going to attract these, I guess, more socially dominant males or like white males who are more likely to date white and Asian women. And then the book next to that was Stop Wearing Pants. How to get a high value man. And there was like how to get a man, like a, and the message is that more masculine men want feminine women, and Black women are not seen as feminine. So, but it's like a side effect. It's of like the societal problems that have been caused by a racist culture, which I hate to say that, but
I think social media has a lot to do with it too, though.
How so?
It's social media in a way has made it okay to objectify women, I'd say.
Oh, well, women have already.
You know what I mean? It's because, every girl on an Instagram page where she's showing her naked ass to the world. Every girl, well, not every girl, but lots of women, they on Instagram and showing their naked ass to the world. They got porn on Twitter. They got OnlyFans pages.
Oh, yeah, they do have porn on Twitter, straight up.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They got OnlyFans pages, and they showing their twerk videos and things of that nature. So, look, I ain't knocking your sisters. Do what you got to do. Seriously.
Yeah, I like her.
But when men look at that, we see it, and that's not life. But they feeling, but that's just not life. You know what I mean? Like, seriously,
bring home.
Like, I don't. I've been with the same girl for 9.5 years. But if I was to date a new woman, a new woman, if I was to start dating a new woman, I would ask her, let me see your Instagram. The first, like, seriously, the first ass chick I see, you know what, baby girl? I mean, it's just because men are very territorial, and just for me, personally, I don't want no woman who the entire world is one Google search away from seeing her naked ass on the internet. But that's just me, some other man can have that.
Understand that.
But for me, that's not what I want in a woman. You know what I mean? So I think that social media has really made it normal to objectify women. But women, when men call them out on that, baby girl, you out here hoeing on the internet. You might not be sleeping with every man, but you know what I mean? You out here showing your naked ass to the world on the internet. And that's not a traditional wife. And so if you don't want to be a wife, you don't want to be a wife. But if you running around here claiming you want to be somebody's wife and you want to be respected as a wife, then do respectable things that wives do. My mom always used to tell women all the time, you dress as you want to be addressed.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So if you out here showing your naked ass to the world, then you for the streets. If you wearing something that's a little bit more conservative, and maybe you're not for the street. But hey, that's just my opinion.
Maturity thing as well. Yeah, I feel you. Like, what's that phrase? You can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
Can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
I think you might be able to I think it's a maturity thing too. I think it's like younger girls, especially. I would hope that as they mature and just maybe, because when you start getting kids and hopefully, well, honestly, let me just say no. There's still a lot of with kids who are a little bit ridiculous, but I would hope it's like when you start getting into your 30s, you start realizing not only is that maybe not attractive to another man who wants to kind of be with you exclusively, your job, maybe the PTA, if they see that, that may not be conducive to forming like really strong, mature relationships. Like, do people want to go do you want to go into business with someone who just kind of has their ass out and has a lot of thirst traps? I understand, like the Instagram model thing. I understand that that's kind of more of our culture today. But people do need to understand that if you want a more, I guess, socially affirming lifestyle, like you want to raise a family, I don't think like that those nurses that were like putting out like really nasty pictures and they got like fired, or like the police. People aren't really. That's not really a good look for anyone who really wants to be, I guess, taken seriously. Like,
and that more falls on the company that employs you. You don't want the company don't want to say this is what we stand for. So it's not it's not just the fact that she's doing it. It's like you work for our company, and this is not what the company presents. So we don't want anybody to think that this is what our company is affiliated with. So
that's happened a lot.
You know what I
Have
mean?
you?
And I'm not on social media a lot. Really. I'm just on Twitter, because of me connecting with the atheist community. But if you Google Gerald Allen, you're not gonna find a Facebook page, a TikTok
That's
page,
great.
just nothing like that. You know what I mean?
That's
I'm
actually
not.
really
I'm just not
smart.
on it. You know?
Well, that's really smart. And I would say just today, it's just it's a different world. Like,
It is.
no pun intended, but pun intended. But
I know I was in high school and just fresh out of high school. If I wanted to see a girl naked, I had to put in work to get her to send me some pictures. I done took her on a few dates. I done spent some money on her just to get her to send me a titty pic. Now I want to see a titty pic. Most of
just
the
go
girls,
right
you
to
just a Google
Instagram.
search away.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
that's a concern. Like, that's a concern for me because also too, like I was telling you I was doing some career moves and some stuff, and I want to be valued for my professionalism, and I want people to see,
Definitely.
like, I even get I still use a pseudonym really with this as well because I'm not making money from it quite yet, and I still need people to employ me. So like how people view you, it's easier to see who someone really is to stay in time just from a Google search. And
Exactly.
our sisters, and that's another thing actually Boyce Watkins was talking about, was like the role models for Black women. Who are
Mhm.
the role models for Black women?
Who
who
are they?
who are
Nicki
they? Who's the person?
Minaj.
Nicki
I mean,
Minaj,
I'm not
Cardi
knocking
B.
those women because I respect those women. I do. I respect my sisters, and
I listen to
that's why I
their
use the name
radio.
Brother GA because I'm very black conscious, and
Yeah,
I love
Afrofuturism is
everybody,
important.
but my empowerment is to the black community. I want to uplift the black community so our community
Yeah,
can advance.
we
And
need
and when
to
I
push
see my
it.
sisters out here just
There are hordes of
I
listeners.
look, I love my sisters, but I don't want my daughter or my niece coming up to me telling me that they get their knowledge from somebody like me just dying in a Cardi B or something like that. What are they teaching you on an educational level?
So you're
Yeah, I mean, you
asking
can rap
them.
their songs. Hey, I might rap their songs. I still listen to my
I
rap
do
music. I
listen to
love my
them.
rap music. But I'm not going to tell you that the Notorious B.I.G. or that T.I. somebody influenced what I do on a social level. You know what I
But
mean?
to
Or
be
something like
honest
that,
with you, if Ti or B, like those are actually different types of like entertainers. I
Right.
would like those are lyricists. Their music isn't the same as like
Mhm.
Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. You can actually get some life lessons from Ti. You actually can. You
You can't. I
actually,
mean, I grew up in Georgia. I love Tip. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So, and and,
I
and
like.
now
Yeah.
he's doing more activist work, and the brother
Did
is
you
actually
read
extremely
his paper?
intelligent. Was
Yeah,
that?
he
Hmm.
said something about his daughter. What did
Hmm.
he say about protecting her? I don't know. He
Yeah.
said something very traditional and got
Right.
in
But
trouble
I meant
for it.
like
Of course, but
old school, trap music. I'm serious type. You know what I mean? That's what
yeah,
I meant. On
yeah,
that note, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Rapping about the dope and all that. That's not
yeah.
what our young brothers need. But now he's coming out. I know you watch his podcast, Expeditiously. Have you ever seen his podcast?
I haven't. I think that's
You
where.
know.
Have you? Do you watch Abba and Preach, or have you heard Abba and Preach on YouTube?
Mm-mm.
Check
No.
out Abba and Preach. They're two Black guys. One's from Ethiopia, one's from Canada. I thought they were both from America, but they live
Yeah.
in. No, I'm sorry. One's from Ethiopia, one's from Haiti. They both live in Canada. Um,
Mhm.
but they used to do. People say that they're like red pill. They're not. They do a
Yeah.
lot of critical, but they do honest critical assessment of
Yeah.
like the Black community and also other communities as well, like things that are going on. But they were talking about something. Ti said something. You know what? What did he say? Actually, I'm gonna try to find it. Ti said something about daughter. It was about like he wants his daughter to be celibate or takes his gynecologist to the year to make sure she's still a virgin. Oof. Yeah,
Oh wow. That's
yeah,
a
that's not good.
that's
That's
kind of a bit extreme, but
that is very extreme. And that's
yeah.
but I wouldn't but his rap music is not on the same level as like Cardi B or Megan's. Like they don't really rap about anything intellectually enriching.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um telling a girl that you can sell, and they're right though, you can definitely sell your ass for money, and men will
Oh
give
yeah.
you money. If you're attractive and you have a small waist and a big ass, you can pretty much get whatever you want. And but that's not really a substantive way of living your
But in
life.
20 years when it's gone, what you got to show for
Exactly. And that's the
it?
problem. Like, and when
Mhm.
but like, I mean, well, there are quite a few women who still maintain their curves after
Oh
quite
yeah.
some time. Um,
Millionaires. Yeah.
That's true. Like you definitely need a
Yeah.
high value male. You need to be a high value woman to
Hmm.
like keep that, keep it nipped and tucked. But I
Right.
think for our sisters, I would like to see more Michelle Obamas, but there aren't
Mm.
really, besides Michelle, I can't think of any like role models. I mean, like Beyonce's probably the least offensive. And Oprah's
Mm.
kind of old. She's not really.
Mm.
I can't
Oprah's.
think of role models for our young ladies.
I'm not sure where I am with Oprah. I don't watch enough of her content to make
I
an
don't either. I
honest
don't even know where
opinion
she
on
is.
Oprah, but I mean,
I just
eh,
think she feeds into the superstition of black women, like Iyanla and her, are just way too that ratchet, everything astrology, Jesus shit that black women fall. That just
oh,
gets on my damn nerves. If she ain't a Christian, she's into astrology, and I just can't. I hate it.
mm.
But
You know,
no, we need help. So
we definitely need help, and I
we
don't
need
think
some
religion
help.
is our answer. You know
No,
what I'm
really, and
saying?
that's what
Jesus
that's
been
where
coming
all
back for
this.
I don't know damn how long. My grandmama
No,
told me a long time that Jesus was gonna come back before she passed. My grandma passed in 1999, but she used to tell us all the time Jesus was coming back before she would die. But you know what I mean? He ain't
my
back yet.
no, he's not, and he's not coming back, and he's not going to save us.
Yeah.
He's not going to help us, and that's what we need to realize. And that's why. Oh, this started with you said we need our own schools, and I would be so
Mhm.
hesitant to have any black person in my community teaching my child, unless because like the whole.
Mm.
I just we're so superstitious, like statistically, and just hearing the things we say, like I love my acting coach. Toby Gaddison is like the probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I
Mhm.
love Toby. And he's from Philadelphia. And he knows that I have a thing. I like Stallone a lot. I think,
Mhm.
Stallone's dope. And he was giving a lesson at the end. And at the end of every class, he would read a Bible verse.
Mhm.
And but his usage of the Bible was more functional. Like it wasn't like Jesus is going to save you. It's like this Bible verse says this, and that means you need to work hard and whatever. So he had
Topical preaching.
top right.
Topical
So
preaching.
he
Yeah.
mentioned a verse about putting down your stakes and nailing your or putting up your tent or something. And he said, you know, Stallone worked really hard. He did this, he did that, he did this, and that statue will be standing forever. Well, until Jesus comes back. But that statue, and when he said that, I was like, he's joking, right? Like he doesn't actually believe Jesus is coming back, but I think he does.
Mm.
And that is troubling for me. Like, um, how someone can talk about neurological processes that can contribute to memory retention and
Right.
talk about DNA and ribosomes and all this stuff, and then can turn around and say Jesus is coming back. Like I don't know if I would want my kids hearing that, and
Was
I
he ever here? That's the first question. Was he
that's
ever
the first.
here?
Oh, that's a good question too. But like
And you
say,
know
but
what?
we don't question those things in our community.
See, when I went to college, and okay, my degree is in Christian studies with an emphasis in biblical studies.
That's yes.
They literally teach you how the religion is man-made. Like when you go, like going to school for this, they literally the first classes you start with a world religions class. So you'll take like world religions classes, so you'll learn about Hinduism and Buddhism and
Yeah.
Shintoism and a lot of those other religions.
Yeah.
But and so when you get to Christianity, like they literally just teach you how the religion is man-made. There's not
Yeah.
one objectively verifiable event that we can point to and say this is what the religion is based off of. It's
Yeah.
this council or that council, the Council of
Yes.
Nicaea, the Council of
Yes. Trent.
Athanasia,
Yeah.
Saint Anselm, and
Yeah.
coming up with
Aquinas
all
and all.
these Nicene creeds and
Yeah.
all these other creeds. Okay, so it's all pretty much the word of men. And
Yes.
growing up in the church community, one of the things we will always hear is don't believe the report of man, but believe the report of the Lord. But how
Yeah.
am I supposed to know what the report of the Lord is? He ain't never gave it to nobody.
No. And still
At
isn't.
what point when is God gonna pop out the sky and say, hey, I'm God, this is what it is? Like seriously, like there's
It's all
nothing
about the
from
sky,
God. It's
brother.
literally all from men. Everything we
Yeah.
learn about is from some other man. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So
Usually a man.
I'll
Yeah.
believe the report of the Lord when I can get the report of the Lord. But that's
Right.
why we have over 1,000 different denominations of Christianity within the U.S. alone,
Yes. Alone.
because we just can't agree on it. You know what I
Even in
mean?
my own house, like when people say, I say this all the time, whenever someone says Christianity is an objectively moral religion, I say, listen, I can smash that just by putting my aunt and my mom in the same room and saying the word abortion. There's no objective morality. They're going to argue, but they're both Christians. They both study the Bible. They both say they're going to heaven. I mean, I can't say who's going to heaven or not, but I'm sure one is more likely to make it than the other. I won't say which one.
How do you get your morals from the Bible? The Bible tells you to stone your unruly children to death. Is that moral?
A long time ago, if my parents actually followed the morality of the Bible, my brother and I both would have been going a long time ago.
Oh, like, right. I'm telling you,
it's just exactly. How can you say that, especially with Black people, and then knowing that the Bible was used, the slavery-inducing or encouraging verses in the Bible were used to support our enslavement. Man. Like when
hearing Black people try to defend slavery is just heartbreaking.
Tripping.
It is heartbreaking.
Tripping. When I went on Jimmy's show, there was this guy that called in named Emmanuel. He's from Ethiopia and he lives in Texas, and he was supporting slavery. And I'm just like
saying it was good.
Yeah, he was like, it's perfectly fine to be enslaved, and you need to be an obedient obedient slave to your master. And I was asking, even the cruel ones. And I'm
That's
like,
what the Bible said.
Really
even the cruel ones.
And I'm just like, this ain't a kink. You're actually saying it's okay to be a slave. This isn't like Justin Timberlake, I'm taking sexy back slave. This isn't like Rihanna. This is, you're literally saying, and I find it weird. And but it's that learned helplessness, like I said earlier.
I know Matt asks a lot of people all the time. He said, would you willingly be my slave under the laws of Exodus 21? I've never heard anyone say yes.
I think G-Man did.
Somebody said yes?
I think he was Black.
Oh, word? Call him and tell him to come down to New Orleans real quick, and because I need a slave.
You don't want to talk to that. Excuse me, I almost said a pejorative. You do not want to talk to that individual. Let me say that.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to talk to that because I was saying.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, you already know. I can't because I got a lot of white people that watch my podcast.
Absolutely.
I would get canceled so fast. I'd be like, wait a minute. I
don't want you to get canceled. I don't want to be on the show that you got canceled on. Ooh, what does it mean?
What happened to Nikki? Well, on her own show, talking to a Black person, she said, and she, how could she? You're like, really? Come on, let me say my word.
But yeah, Christianity is just a completely man-made religion. Like,
it is extremely.
It definitely is. You know that it was criminalized in Judea. I want to say it was Constantine the Great was the one who decriminalized it.
Yep, made it the same.
The Council of Edict is what he it was like a treaty that they did, and he was the one who decriminalized, and they had to stop killing Christians pretty much because of Constantine the Great. And then Constantine the Great was the one who assembled the Council of Nicaea afterwards
to determine the state of the Trinity in the church, right?
Yes, but then when you go to the Athanasian Creed, they disagree. They don't believe that there's a Trinitarian God.
Exactly.
And these are two of the biggest creeds in all of Christianity. You got the Athanasian Creed and you got the Nicene Creed. And these are like two of the biggest things in all of Christianity, but they don't even agree. Was God three people or not? Some of them say yes, some of them say no. Like, bro, y'all are supposed to be the arbiters of this religion, and y'all can't even agree.
It's supposed to be objective. And, it's so interesting. I had a debate this past week with a member of the Orthodox Church. I think everyone I've debated so far has been Orthodox, but even at the end when they had questions, people coming on and ask questions, this Christian was going after him. They were like, "Well, how do you know you're blah blah?" I'm just like, y'all, this is my whole entire point. This is my whole entire point. You guys can't even agree. So until you do, and until you can demonstrate your God exists, I'm going to stand over here and I'm going to challenge you. And that's what we're going to do. But
they can't give demonstrations, and they don't like it when you ask for demonstrations.
No, the transcendental argument, and we got to wrap up here in a bit. That is like nonsense. And it's just like the transcendental laws of logic exist, so therefore God. No. No. You have
somebody actually said that.
That's the whole argument. That's the only thing I've debated. I have not debated an evidentialist once.
No,
not even.
You probably won't
unintentionally. No, because you can't show. There's no evidence actually for God. You have to bullshit, and that's why I've been listening to a lot of Matt's debates, because the only people who want to debate me are presuppositionalists, transcendental argument for the existence of God, the tag argument. Those are the only people, because everyone else understands. They're like, evolution and all these other these topics don't really demonstrate God exists, so they have to take it to the paradigmatic level. And
why are there so many arguments for God? Why aren't there the argument for God?
Just one
Because,
argument.
like you were just saying, you got the transcendental argument, you got the
Ontological
ontological argument, you got the modologic versions of the ontological argument, you got the cosmological argument, you got the Kalam cosmological argument, you got the teleological argument.
Yeah.
Why are all these arguments? Why ain't there one argument?
Just
Give
one
me
argument.
one.
Yeah, just one. Like I told
got
you,
all these different arguments.
Aquinas has 5 arguments for God. Like one ain't enough. Like,
why is it?
Why? But it's because the God doesn't exist, really. And I mean, like, I know that's a claim that needs demonstrating, and I'm happy to do it. But of course,
I think we can demonstrate as written that the Christian God, as presented in the Bible, does not exist.
Exactly.
And that's one I get, because I've never actually done a formal debate, but I was talking to one of my partners, and he said, "Well, you can't demonstrate that God doesn't exist." I said, "You know what? I can't demonstrate that a God doesn't exist, but your God doesn't exist." I asked him, I said, "Would you drink a cup of rat poison if I put it in front of you right now?" He said, "No." I asked him, "Why not? Your Bible says you can." And he didn't even know that the Bible says you could. If you go to Mark 16 and tell you can drink rat poison, you can lay your hands on sick people and they'll be healed, and all this other kind of nonsense. I mean, come on. The Bible says that God created the first man out of a ball of dust.
Aaron Ross specifically gives the name of the spell that the
a golem spell.
A golem spell, yeah. It is wild.
We learned about that in school. They taught us that in school. It was one of the top. It was one of the topics in what's the eschatology class. It was one of the topics that we learned in school. I think it was in eschatology specifically, where they taught us about the golem spell, one of the old Judaism spells. How they were kind of like equivalent to what a voodoo doll is now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They would make a clay figurine, breathe into it, and it would the breath of life and all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about like the practices in Christianity, the rituals are cannibalistic, the magic and the spells, people don't like that, but that's what it is. But they would look at someone else's religion and see a deity practicing the same, I guess, ideas or whatever, and rituals, and be like, well, that's demonic. Well, your deity is doing the same thing.
Like drinking blood and pretending to eat a cracker. That's not demonic. That's blood magic.
That's blood magic.
That is blood magic.
That's
drinking some grape juice.
Cannibalism. Right.
And that was my mom's favorite time to go to church, was on first Sunday, so we could do communion. That's blood. And we pretending to drink somebody's blood. And then we sing about it too. I know it was blood. I know it was the blood. We singing about doing blood magic.
Yeah. But well, but we have a really interesting role in helping African Americans realize, specifically African Americans in the South, that it is okay to question religion, and it is okay to turn your back on it, and to realize that it is bullshit, and you will survive. And there are people that you can talk to. Of course, the Black non-believers. You were you were a pastor, so the Clergy Project as well. For pastors.
Oh yes, I feel like there were a couple people from the Clergy Project. Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Mandisa was the one who told me about the Clergy Project, actually, when I spoke with her.
Very cool.
Mandisa Thomas.
The Black non-believers. If you're in Atlanta, she heads the one here. There's chapters in Detroit. I think there are in New Orleans as well. I'm not sure, but
are they?
I know Charlotte. They're pretty widespread by now. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me on. It was a blast. It was definitely a blast.
I would love to have you back on if you'd like down the road.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm always willing to just tell people that Christianity is crap and the rest of them are crap too.
Exactly. But I just love it's really fun to have this conversation with like another African American group in the South and understands like what it's like to be Black in America and be a Christian, or like basically a Black Christian, and how it's so inculcated in our community, and how it's kind of lonely when you leave, and that's real.
That was the biggest problem for me. It's definitely been lonely, and I just I want to reach out to other people and let them know, like, you know what, I'm living proof. You can get out. I was a preacher for 6.5 years. you can get out. If you don't believe it, you just don't believe it. You can get out, and it's
Yeah.
okay. And luckily, I wasn't one of the people that was ostracized by my family, by my wife, or
Yeah.
anything like that. And I know people have. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people have been ostracized just because you don't believe in the invisible man in the sky with magic powers no more. You get ostracized.
You get
And
off the
so, hey, look, if you need somebody, you can come holler at me. I'll talk to you. It's okay. And I know what it's like leaving religion. It can be depressing. It
Yeah.
can be heartache. It can be, you're questioning yourself, but it's okay. It's okay.
And that is a perfect segue into us wrapping up. And you, please let everyone know once more where they can find you and possibly come to you with some of the questions about how to leave the church and find
I'm
some.
Brother GA. You can find me on Twitter at _GA Brother. I'm there. You can talk to me anytime. Hit me on the inbox. Send me a tweet. Anything you need, talk to me. If you're feeling scared about your religion, if you're questioning your religion, if you have a question about the Bible, come talk to me.
Awesome.
Biblical
Well,
scholar.
yep, biblical scholar, actually ordained minister. So
Yes, I was. Absolutely.
thank you so
And
much for
thank
coming.
you, my sister. It was a pleasure. It was an honor being on your show. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
And for everyone out there, thank you so much for watching. You can find me on Beat the Cult on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, although I need to use it more, and TikTok. I also am starting the Beat the Cult store. I should be launching in the next week and starting a Patreon as well, which I will be launching in the next week. But with that being said, I want to once again thank you, Brother GA, for coming on
Thank
the
you for
show.
having me. I appreciate
And
it.
thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And thanks everybody for watching. And I will see you next week. We will be doing a live episode with Oz. That is Jenna's boyfriend. If you guys know Jenna, the Black atheist female, I'm looking forward to having him on the show. So make sure to tune in then. And I will see you guys later. Thanks.
All right. Good night.
Good night.